So I'm not going to talk as much about the logistics of it, even though I'd love to answer any of those questions afterwards. But I am going to, I'm going to record it so you'll have it, but you'll see that it's real easy. So, okay, so the glare is kind of, are there like front lights? I just can't, my old eyes can't see this as much.
Is that a little better?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's good. Okay, so this is a part of the Smartboard, so I'm literally just going to record this. So, we are recording, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about all that. Alright, I think this might not, oh there we go. Okay, now this is what I did last time. Okay, so how podcasting can save your life. And it did for me when I was teaching, and so I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I chose to use it, and then how effective it was, and then some lessons learned, because as anything with teaching, you never get it right the first time, or the second time, or the third time, but I have learned a few things from doing it. So a vodcast is just a silly name for a podcast, which you all have heard, with that you'll just listen to, but a vodcast just adds that video component to it. So why I decided to use my Smartboard to podcast. So November of my last year of teaching, this is what I looked at, what I looked like, because I had this one class period, my 7th period class, and they drove me up the wall because I would do this great lesson. I thought I had everything covered. I would send them home and say, you know everything to do your homework. They would come back to class the next day. They would sit there. I would go around checking their homework, and maybe 10%, 2 kids on a given day had done their homework. And so you've all been there, or maybe not, because you guys are probably really good at doing their homework. But you have this next great lesson planned, and then you're sitting there like, okay, well I can't do that because no one's done their homework, so we can't even go over the homework, and then you're just lost in this like sea of doing things on the fly, and it's just really frustrating. So that is what I looked at like in November of 2010. So then someone gave me this research on the flipped classroom, and basically it's 2 guys, chemistry teachers in Colorado. Aaron Stamps is one of their names, and I forget the other guy. But they had created this model of teaching where, as co-teachers, they would record their lessons ahead of time and send kids home, and they would listen to the lectures for homework and then come in class and do what they were doing for homework now in the classroom with the support of their teachers. So I decided to give it a shot, knowing that I'm not super tech savvy, and did my best. So in January, I sent a letter home, and maybe this isn't going to show. I sent a letter home to the parents explaining the change in instruction, that's what that said, and introduced them to Blip TV. So Blip TV is where I used, is the housing site I used to hold my videos, because the teacher web pages, at the time at least, maybe they've gotten a lot better, couldn't really support the amount of data I was putting up there. So I would upload everything to Blip and then embed it into the web page. So there's some technical things there that I can talk to you about later, but just as a big picture, that was kind of how I would do this. So there's my cute little class. So then in April, after using this method through 2 units, this class for 2 units back to back, using that method of having them watch the lectures at home, come to class, they had the highest averages of a test, which for this sweet, precious group of children was pretty remarkable, considering the difficulties that they had put me through at the time. So there's kind of, I also got, this is, I'm sure you guys have all gotten student feedback from your kiddos at some point, so I took that as well, because I really wanted to see how they responded, not just on paper, but how they also felt about the method at that time from a personal standpoint. So, I mean, just a couple things that they said that you can obviously read on your own that I thought supported the good work that I was trying to do for my kids. Alright. So, why should you podcast? So, I told you about my initial reason for starting it or trying this method, and it came out of it so many other things that I was like, whoa, that would solve this problem and this problem and this problem, even though my initial intention was, how do you get this one group of kids to do their work and succeed in class? So, it provided them the opportunity to reteach any information because it was all there. They could go back to any lesson that they hadn't learned before, and even though I did it with just this one class, then my 6th period class that I didn't use this method with, have not seen this stuff in 20 years at that, at least. And so kids are often just left to their own devices when they get home. They have maybe a textbook, they have whatever notes they took in class, they can Google things, but in terms of a parent sitting down and being able to explain potentially anything was not very good. But at least with the videos, some parents would say, well, I didn't know how to do it, but I could sit there with my kid and could learn potentially side by side with them and get a refresher of whatever content it was. So that might not be as true at every school necessarily, depending on, I know when I was at Lee, I didn't have great parental involvement, but if it was just one tool to potentially give them the ability to be a little more involved. This was like the holy grail for me with absent kids. I mean, it's so hard. You've taught these great lessons for 3 days, you have the kid who's been sick, they come in and they're like, ooh, what did I miss? And you're like, well, I've had 3 lessons since then. I mean, you've all been there. So it was so easy to be like, well, they came to my class and they knew the videos were being posted, but if they didn't, I would say, okay, well, go sit back at the computer in the back of the room, and here are some guided notes pages to catch up on, and we're going to spend your time in class getting caught up on what you have missed. So this part of it I was not expecting and anticipating as much, but it was a huge benefit to recording my lessons. And it fit their schedule, so students would go home, they knew at any point when they got home that they could watch the video after dinner, before dinner, pause it because they only had 15 minutes here and then 30 minutes there, and so they didn't feel like they had to sit there the whole time to watch these videos, so it gave them a little bit more flexibility of when they chose to do their work. And then this one was huge for me too, because did you guys have to write sub-plans? Did you have like a...
Only if they were sick during their 9 weeks,
Okay.
yeah.
So, back in the olden days, we had to create these subfolders where we had to have these lesson plans for subs as a potential. And sometimes we had to write them just for our mentor teachers. They would teach a lesson that we had written. So that's an easy sub. You're like, hey, mentor, will you teach this lesson? Well, yeah, they obviously are capable of doing that. But this was awesome because I could record a lesson and I could be gone for the day, but still didn't feel like my kids were missing out on quality instruction. So you could either, in this way, you could kind of do it a couple ways. You could just record the video and have them watch it in class, or you could still use the flipped classroom where they had already gotten the content. But what was nice about having subs watch it in class, because most subs are fairly capable, if they sat there and watched a video about how to do something, they really could sit with the students afterwards and kind of don't have an excuse to be like, I'm just sitting back here, let me know if you need anything. So that was a huge one for me too. Alright, so there's kind of 2 methods, 2 ways of doing this. There's, you can use it as just a tool for scaffolding, which is totally great and effective too. Or you could do the flipped classroom, which is kind of what I was talking about. So as a method of scaffolding, it is seriously just easy. You just teach like you were teaching before. You're giving a lecture, you're just trying to deliver content. You stand up there, you just record your lesson just like I'm doing right now. You record it, you post it to your webpage, and then students will just have access to it whenever. So it still cures the absent problem. It's already up there, so that fixes that. It allows students, gives them the ability to relearn and reteach. Still gives that parental support aspect, but it doesn't take any extra time for you. You're doing exactly what you were doing in the day. You just put on a microphone, record it, post it to your webpage. It's that simple. And so that, and then you have that archive of lessons throughout your whole year of teaching that you can post. And then next year, say you didn't want to record anything, you still have this support system that you've already housed somewhere up in the wonderful world of the web. And then I just felt like it gave students more support because they had access to lessons at home. Or you could do the flipped classroom, which is what I chose to do with that one class. So you kind of have to record lessons ahead of time, unless you did it like I did, where I was only doing it for one group of kids, not both classes. If you were doing this, most of you will be on a team, and so the guys out in Colorado, they would split up that work. So one of them will record some stuff, the other will record other stuff, and as a collaborative group, they were able to create these videos. So it wasn't all on one person to create all this stuff for their kiddos. So they do it ahead of time. They post them to the web, just like you would otherwise. They watch the videos for homework, and then you get to spend time in class tackling really difficult problems. So it has a few few more benefits than just using it as a scaffolding tool. So no student ever misses content delivery because it's always done at home. So even if a kid was absent, they know while they're sitting at home, even if they're absent, they're still responsible for watching the video or keeping up. Everyone can still be retaught anything they need to. Still gives the parental support that kids need. And then your classroom becomes a laboratory instead of a lecture hall, which all of us, I mean, and you guys know this from all of your training from Angela and Ileana and Courtney, that, I mean, that's like our mecca of like what we want for our kids. We want them to come in and just feel like they're doing hands-on stuff, they're tackling big problems, but unfortunately we've always had to give them some kind of content at some point, which is necessary, but can kind of sometimes take away from the hands-on stuff you want them to be doing. This was huge for me. It reduced the student frustration at home. So you didn't get the kids going home, facing a roadblock, being like, oh, whatever, just not doing it, and then showing up to school empty-handed. There were no excuses here. You just go home and watch a video. And then they could be used on Sundays, which was amazing. So what do you need? So the software, Smartboard, Notebook 10, I think it's 11 now. Sorry, it's old, outdated. And a microphone, which I'm wearing now, and the ability to make mistakes. So if you were like me, you would sit there and you're like, ooh, what am I going to say? It's going to sound terrible, and then you stumble through your words. But at the end of the day, none of that was important. The kids didn't sit there and go, ugh, that was awful, Mrs. Ridge. Like, you didn't teach me anything. I mean, no, like you're not trying to add more work to yourself as a teacher, because we know we have enough of it already. You just have to record it, post it, whatever goes, goes, and it's still better than nothing. And that's what I always told myself. Whatever they're going to get up there is better than nothing. So I learned a few things after I did this. Don't fret. It's going to be okay. That, same thing with the ability to make mistakes. It just wasn't, at the end of the day, that was not important. It was just important that they had access to what I was trying to teach them outside of the classroom. It's just one tool. So it is a tool to put in your toolbox, but at the end of the day, you have to know your students. And if you get to a point where you're sending your kids home and none of them are then watching the videos anymore, it's then not an effective tool. So it's not as much about like this being the one, you do a flipped classroom and you ride that flipped classroom train all the way and you're like going to tell everybody about it and it's the coolest thing ever, because it's not going to work every time for every kid, and we know that because they're all different. So put it in your toolbox and use it as much as you can, as much as it's helping your kids, but if you ever get to a point that it's not, then try something else. Individual accountability is key. So you will know it. You can picture the kid goes home, they don't watch the video, they come to class the next day. What I've sent them home with usually was a guided notes page. And so that is easy to copy from any other friend that you see. So I did a few things. One, either I would like embed a secret code or password into the video that they had to like watch that and like get whatever that was, so that I knew they like came with that. Granted, you can get a password from anybody else too. Or I read about too, there's a lot of research out there nowadays. So one person has said that what they will do is at the end of their video or somewhere in the video, their password or secret code would be like, okay, write down your address and that's what you're going to turn into me. Where it's not the same for every kid, but you had to know enough to like on your note card or whatever, or at the top of your notes page, you would have your address written down. And so like you would know as a teacher, if you're coming around checking it for completion, that they had like done that one thing, but it was still unique to that student, but holding them somewhat accountable. Or I found that exit slips were really critical here, because they would come in, then they would work collaboratively, but at the end of the day, you still need them to perform on their own. So you would just give them an exit slip and see what they had learned. So maybe they didn't watch the video, maybe they copied the note page, but at the end of the day, they sat there and worked with each other, but were still able to perform on an exit slip whatever you were trying to get them to learn, and fine, you copied your notes page. At the end of the day, you got the content. So whatever method works for you is great. So I feel like when you're planning as a teacher, sometimes just notes or a lecture is just easier, you just have to go in there. So by doing this, you're really challenging yourself to deliver when the kids are in the room. So it's really important that you have really awesome, authentic, hands-on stuff to do when the kids are there. So you can't just waste your time being like, this is great, now you're just going to come in and hand them all a problem set that says like, now just do your homework, or, you know, define all these words that we talk, whatever it is. I mean, you have to really challenge yourself to do good things in the classroom. And I know everyone is capable of that, but you just have to make sure you don't waste that time. This is tricky. So, if you're recording them, if you're doing it in class, you're probably more engaging if you're talking to your students and you're just recording yourself while you're talking to your kiddos and then you post it. It's not as engaging sometimes to be sitting there in a classroom, an empty classroom, recording it ahead of time. Like, who do you joke with? I mean, what? Like, you have to really think of that. So, and I would try sometimes either like throw in an accent here and there, like as you're talking. I know it's real awkward, but you have to try to keep their attention. And you know that this, Ileana's laughing because she can imagine me doing that because they've seen this before. But even just telling a joke, or like, I love Snapple Facts. That was one of the things when I was a teacher. I would like go to Snapple Facts and just like put them, I would either like have one a day, or I would sometimes put them in my, like halfway through the video, like, did you know, like, what animal has orange teeth? Like, a beaver. Like, I mean, just something silly, stupid, that you would just put in there as like a funny, engaging thing that it makes the kids, like, if they know something like that is in there, they're going to be more inclined to watch it, because they're like, what is she going to say, that one thing that is funny. So, challenge you to do that. So, that is all I have for you. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and then I'm going to take questions, if that is okay, once I can see a screen. Okay. What would you like me to say?
Let's show them how easy this part is. Because so hit the say or.
Well, what do you want me to say? I was going to
Oh,
name it something.
yes, save it. Smartboard March 2014.
That seems a little big, but we'll go.
Well, if Nathan already has it on there, then I am going to be wondering.
Okay. And do you want me to save the desktop just to be?
Yeah,
So
that'll
we
work.
don't lose it? Okay. Alright, so that's 16 minutes, that's fairly longish, so it'll take a little bit of time to save now. Yeah, so this is, technology has to be getting better in this regard. That one day when you guys are teaching, you'll be able to like just do this and it'll just like magically save. And I struggled a lot with like uploading this stuff too, because it's a lot of data, but it's still it was still possible 3 years ago. It has to be potentially easier now, God willing.
Pass this around.
Yeah.
We found a box of these in the ISA closet that also had a Post-it note with McKinley's
oh my gosh,
name
you're
on
gonna
it.
kill me, 'cause
So
I did this whole thing wrong. I think I plugged it into the wrong port, but you have it on video, don't you? Ah! I'm sure I did. Yeah, that was the
Yeah, it
right
was a
port.
speaker.
we were gonna. I know. I was thinking when you first started, we should test this.
I know, I thought that too.